love to tell stories, meaningful stories, impactful stories that people can relate to. And the idea of Explorist, the reason why I founded it was that I wanted to inspire the average Joe to kind of, embrace the outdoors more, don't get sucked into the 9-to-5 too much, and take your family on picnics. I feel like that's something that's been lost on a lot of Americans.
I understand that a lot of people come to my show and they have this great expectation of some deep, geopolitical insight or my evaluation on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia or what's going on and that type of stuff because of my background. But you also now, after watching me on Sean Ryan, if you did, you understand that I am an artist at heart. And so what I'm always doing is scouring X and Instagram and the internet, looking for people that I believe are true artists, people that have taken a passion for what stirs them and what gets them out of bed in the morning and turning it into something that other people can consume and can connect to, that can transform their perceptions of their own reality. And so today it is with great honor that I welcome Xander Joseph to the show. Now, Xander is the founder of Explorist.com, and that's Explorist.org. I'm sorry, Explorist.org. And what they do is they are documentary filmmakers that are really out there to inspire you to connect with your local environments, to experience the thing that he has enjoyed throughout his whole life. So without further ado, Xander, it is a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you for having me on here. And really quick, just want to say, appreciate your service to our country. My heart goes out to veterans every time I do meet them. So I appreciate your service.
Oh, I appreciate that more than you can know. That means a lot to me, but let's just hold on because you just started working with Braxton McCoy at the Sagebrush Institute. So you might change your mind after a little bit here, right? Because it's the guys that have gotten blown up. Those are the guys that you really got to pay attention to. All right.
But appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, for sure, man. I saw your documentary, King of the Everglades on X, and man, I think I've watched that thing probably 10 times already. Growing up in South Florida like you, and I can't wait to understand more about that. I grew up and the Everglades were a massive part of our existence down here, especially when it was, it wasn't as built out. When I was born in 1972, it was a lot smaller and they seem to be a lot closer, right? Mm-hmm. But when I watched yours, it really was impactful. And I was like, that's a person that really has respect for what that place is. And what many people don't know, it's the only ecosystem like it in the world. You cannot find the Everglades in any other place in the world. And so we have this beautiful, pristine area, and so little people in Southeast Florida or even around the country recognize that it's available for them to experience in a deep, meaningful way. So why don't we get into that? Like, tell me about growing up in South Florida. Where did these passions for the outdoors and for filmmaking begin?
Ever since I was a kid growing up, there were one of two people I wanted to be, either Indiana Jones or Steven Spielberg. So,
yes, those are awesome.
So it's kind of funny how life kind of worked out in its way that it's, on this sort of trend that I'm more outdoors oriented right now. And I've always enjoyed filmmaking and the process of it, as tedious as it is. But I have a very creative mind in that sense that I love to tell stories, meaningful stories, impactful stories that people can relate to. And the idea of Explorist, the reason why I founded it was that I wanted to inspire the average Joe to kind of, embrace the outdoors more, don't get sucked into the 9-to-5 too much, and take your family on picnics. I feel like that's something that's been lost on a lot of Americans.
Oh, 100%. I mean, for me, my passion place is the ocean, right? growing up, going in that ocean every day. I mean, we have these beautiful beaches that aren't inundated with condominiums on, every 5 feet in between each other. And I just remember going and just being in the water and connecting to that ocean. And then, you start surfing, you start understanding more about what's beneath the ocean, more about, the ecological realities of the ocean. And, and it if you allow it to seep into your heart, it really is transformative. Was there a moment when you were a kid that you went out into the Everglades or you went down to the Keys that really kind of began to capture, or maybe something out west? I saw that you were a snowboarder too.
So yeah, I am. I'm probably the only person in Miami that owns more than one snowboard. So it's like there's severe brain damage over here.
Well, anybody wants to be an outdoor conservationist filmmaker, you always got to be like, what?
So to answer your question, there were two sort of moments that kind of fed into this passion for the outdoors. One, my father's always been an adventurous person. He's always told me stories about him and his grandfather and how they would travel to exotic places. It almost felt like he was Indiana Jones. He would tell me about places in Japan or, other islands that he would go in the Caribbean with his father. And growing up, he kind of wanted to instill that sort of sense of wonder with my brother and I. And he would take us out to the Everglades at a very young age. We would be walking there through the many boardwalks that they had. And Hinga Trail is one of them down south. And then he did, the typical American experience where you take your family out west and you start in San Francisco and drive down the coast and hit all the major national parks out west. So we have photos, and I have vivid memories of, seeing bighorn sheep, Old Faithful, those things, those memories that just were ingrained into my mind. And to this day, I feel like I'm still chasing that wonder, that encapsulating moment where you appreciate the art gallery that is creation.
That's his most beautifully put explanation I've ever heard, man. That was poetic. I mean, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh, Jordy, I want to make sure we get that one logged, and that's the one I want on the clips that we promote this. That was just absolutely perfectly put. You talk about those early memories. I mean, my earliest memory as a child is my father carrying me on his shoulders on a hike out in Yosemite. And you're right. What does it do? Is it regardless of where you come from or what your circumstances are, when you get to really allow what that framework of consciousness to broaden, to see the magnitude of God's creation that is at our fingertips or at a drive distance anywhere pretty much you live. You really can be. It's almost like that. What is it? It's that seed of wanderlust that just can get in your heart, and if you have that, you have so much more fulfillment throughout your whole life, right?
I think people tend to forget one of two things: is that one, mankind is part of the ecosystem, right? People think that the ecosystem is separated from man. And the other thing too is scripture-wise, God called us to be stewards, good stewards of his creation. So I think part of that urge of wonder, that wanderlust that you mentioned, is that part of it's a calling to a lot of us to, be good stewards to creation, to the earth that we were given.
Man, that's massive. I remember I never understood it. I felt it, but I never understood it in the way that you just so poetically put it until I was in college. And when I was in college, I did this Native American Studies class, and we had this Sioux Indian that had come in and talked about it growing up, his desire to leave. He made it to Pittsburgh. He was a welder, and he got in this welding accident and fell like 4 stories, broke every bone in his body, his back. And then as he was recovering, his grandfather, who was a medicine man, made the trip, drove out, and prayed over him for a week. And after a week, he kind of just stood up and he was healed. And so here I am, this 19-year-old kid, impressionable kid. I hear this story, and then he goes back to South Dakota, and he starts telling the story of the living Black Hills, right? And he was able to articulate that the connection that he had with his homeland and the connection of the legacy of generations of his Native American tribe and his family members. And then on that deeper level, as a lineage of medicine men, you know, that hit me in a way that was like, oh my God, there's another way to experience life, to be connected to it. And it's like, and then you like, oh, well, what does this mean, man? And I think that was one of the big things, an underlying component of me wanting to go into the service, was to go see the world. You know, many people ask me all the time, you know, what's the greatest place you've ever been? You know, and I say, you know, in the Hindu Kush in Afghanistan, or out in Bamonyeh, where they had, you know, the Taliban blew up those giant Buddhist statues that were 1,500 years, or out in the desert of death by by Quetta and the border of Pakistan. And people are like, that's a war zone, wasn't it? And I was like, no, it was raw. And I think when you can connect, when there's no barriers, right? I think that's what it is. We have a propensity within society to generate barriers between our soul and creation. I love how you put that. So you start experiencing this at a young age. What was the first moment that you, on a different note, the art of storytelling, how did that emerge in your childhood?
Well, I saw a lot of films growing up with my dad, and, you know, Jurassic Park, Jaws, you name all the Spielberg classics.
God,
and, you know,
so good.
So good. Epic is a good word to use. That I try to use that in all my writing. Growing up, seeing these kind of movies, I didn't want the fame. I didn't want any of the Hollywood stigma, and I didn't want any of that stuff or the fortune that came with it. I wanted the ability to share stories, impactful stories, captivating stories that would inspire the next generation of adventurers, so to speak. And it started at an early age, and then it finally kind of crystallized into a YouTube channel. So
awesome. Can I ask you one quick question? What do you remember some of the first stories other than Spielberg movies? Was because obviously you're a documentary filmmaker, so that's a different type of storytelling. But what were some of the real stories that you remember as a kid, whether it was movies or TV shows or documentaries, that hit you? Because like for me, I remember with documentaries is when Ken Burns came out with the Civil War, and and I was just like, oh my God, like that changes how I look at it. So what were some for you?
For me, growing up, Steve Irwin is probably the number one. May he rest in peace. He was a massive influence on who I am today, as well as people like Jeremy Wade and River Monsters. I can tell you right now, I just finished binge watching River Monsters again for maybe like the 13th time.
Yeah. But it's crazy because now you're like, oh, where did he put the camera on that? And how did he set that shot up? And, you know, and
it's so like, funny that you mentioned that. I lose sleep over this because we're out in the Everglades. So the Everglades isn't exactly a production friendly environment. Full disclosure, we are a 2-man team at the moment. It's myself and my partner, Garrett, and we are out there, and it's a logistics nightmare.
Yes. And if people who haven't had to do anything technical in the wilderness or jungle or deserts or mountains or anything like that, they don't get the logistics involved, right? They're casually interacting with it, whereas you're trying to operate and it's a whole different animal.
It's, I'm sure you can speak on this, rucking with 30 pounds of gear in 108-degree humidity. It's not a good time.
Dude, we did a jungle survival course, my first platoon over in the Philippines. And I'll tell you what, you can stick me in 130-degree weather in the desert any day of the week and twice on Tuesdays, more than I want to be in any jungle, mosquito-infested, wet, everything that grabs you wants to tear your skin environment, right?
That's one thing I always tell people, like, hey, if there's ever, God forbid, there's an invasion to the United States, nobody's invading Florida.
No. Well, do you know the history of the Seminoles and Andrew Jackson and the fight that they put up in resistance?
I'm not too familiar with it. I know that there are a lot of short stories in guerrilla warfare, like pockets of guerrilla warfare throughout Florida and the wetlands that we have here. But do tell me about Andrew Jackson.
When they started the Indian campaigns to, really recapture territory and expand, right? What a manifest destiny. Oh, that was later. I forget what he called it. But they sent these troops down into Florida to get rid of this little tribe because they had been waylaying the Cherokee. They pushed out of North Carolina, right? And then they pushed them down into Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears, and then they sent people, tried to send people up to the Dakotas, and they pushed up up in New England. It was the last of the Mohicans. And they came down here, and they thought it was just going to be easy because the terrain was pretty easy, but then they hit
Flat.
the wetlands and they got waylaid, man. Mm-hmm. The Seminoles were voracious fighters, and they could just disappear is easier than these northern troops and their, heavy wool pants and heavy boots and their rucks and their long, and they just got lit up for a while, and it was this great resistance. Yeah.
Don't even mention the mosquitoes.
Oh my God. I don't know if they're more like pterodactyls than mosquitoes, right?
So funny enough, everyone has told me that the Alaskan mosquito, Alaska has like 30 something species of mosquito, right, but they do have a very aggressive species. But ours, the salt marsh mosquito, is actually the most aggressive species that we have.
and I
can personally attest to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a photo on X from one of our shoots, and this previous June, May, I just smacked my arm over here, and I got some blood splatter on my shirt, and I kid you not, you could barely see the blood. It was just covered in black from the amount of mosquitoes.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. That's
not for the weak.
That's dedication, not for the weak-hearted, right? Okay, so you see Steve Irwin, you see these other people, you begin to, fall in love with the idea of storytelling. And then you're like, all right, well, if this is what it is, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Tell me what that was like. And what was it like the first time, like you picked up that camera and you told your first story? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Oh, it was nerve-wracking because I didn't know how to talk to a camera.
That does suck.
There was that, but it sucks. But, I got used to it. And, I was part of that. I was riding the wave that, I don't know if you remember that trend where travel vlogs were all the rage on YouTube. Yes. And I was like, oh, I could do that. I snowboard, I do this and that. And I'm going to do a cinematic flair to it. But then I just started feeling like, I want to make something that's impactful. Vlogs, don't get me wrong, there are impactful creators out there, and there are vlogs that are
Anthony
not just entertaining. They're informative and. Mm-hmm. And
sorry to interrupt.
To me, I felt like no, you're fine. To me, I felt like it wasn't fulfilling enough for me. I felt like telling stories and inspiring, even if it meant one person saw this video and that weekend they were already looking at hiking with their family and taking a photo with their phone. That to me was the only W that mattered to me. I didn't care so much about the number of subscribers. So then I started to pivot away from the travel content, and I really sat down and dedicated to writing out stories and really honing in on American wilderness. And I feel like American wilderness is significantly underappreciated and underrated to the point where we just had that bill standoff with the whole big, beautiful American bill where they wanted to sell off how many millions of acres.
7.
And that would have been disastrous.
David Rutherford, my best friend. Welcome to the show.
Sean, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
What's up, team? I recently had the incredible honor of joining my best friend, Sean Ryan, on his show. And as a token of my appreciation for him and his audience, I want to do something special for you. For 30 years, I've been helping individuals and teams to discover how to utilize pain and suffering to propel their performance. From the World Series champions, the Boston Red Sox, to elite operators, top entrepreneurs, and business owners, I want to offer the first 3 foundational Frog Logic courses that I've been developing for the past decade. Embrace Fear, Forging Self-Confidence, and Team Life. These courses come straight from the painful stories and lessons learned I talked about on Sean's podcast. And they also emerged from the thousands of people I've instructed. Normally, these courses are $200 each, but until September 15th, you can get all 3 for just $200. That's 3 courses for the price of 1. Please go to davidrutherford.com or click the link in the description to get the bundle. Thank you very much. Hoo-yah and Godspeed. Well, thank God for, Braxton and the courage he had to, start the ball rolling. And then, thank God, Sean was able to get him on and get that thing going. And, I was just up there and they showed me the Washington Post article where, they dropped the trailer and that night they pulled it out of the bill. So, I think those are the stories also for me that really confirm the magnitude of great storytelling, honest, sincere storytelling. Like when you hear an individual's personal affiliation or not, that's not strong enough, infatuation maybe with a particular idea, incident, place, whatever it is. And then if they can demonstrate through like all these beautiful mediums of art that we have, it captures us. It captures the soul. And we saw that happen with that endeavor that they went on. There were millions of people around the country banging on their congressmen, their senators, the federal government. I mean, banging on them. I mean, it got so intense that, there was a pretty high ranking member in Trump's administration that was trying to get Sean not to play that episode with Braxton. And so, that's the power of great storytelling right there. I love it. So when did you decide, all right, I'm passionate about the outdoors. The outdoors isn't a creation. Sorry, I'm going to use the appropriate word that you brought in. I apologize for not keeping that up where it should be. So you're mesmerized, you're infatuated, you're moved, you're called to action by creation itself in our relationship. You discover there's ways to do it with telling stories. When was the moment that you said, all right, this is what I'm going to focus on? And then how did you pick your first big project?
The moment that kind of, it was a pretty big moment in life. I haven't really shared this anywhere else except with my inner circle. So I guess this is a good time to talk about where we came from. A little over a year ago, close to 2 years ago, I lost someone pretty close to me to suicide.
I'm so sorry.
It was tough. I grew up with him. We were good friends and childhood friends. And I kind of was not in a good spot in my life as well. And I just went out into the Everglades by myself, raw dog it, as people say, just went right out there. And I was in the middle of the Everglades in knee-high water with a brand new lens that I wanted to try out. And I just sat there and, David, it was probably one of 2 most peaceful moments in my life where you couldn't hear anything but your thoughts. And I just I felt like I surrendered myself to God. I spoke to him. We had a very personal one-on-one, it felt like. And at that moment, it felt like, I want to do more with my life. I want to not just tell stories. I want to show my appreciation to your work, God, your creation, and instill the same respect that we have that I grew up with my family too. So that kind of kickstarted everything. From there, it was sort of like a mental refresher of really pivoting and focusing on what matters most in life. Everyone kind of gets so caught up with their 9-to-5s, their responsibilities at home. And I'm not saying disregard any of that. I'm just saying that sometimes something happens in life, maybe too late, unfortunately. But for me, it felt sooner than later, where my life kind of recalibrated. And I started to see what mattered more, family, my relationships to my father and my mother, my brother, my friends, my immediate friends as well. And then just finding that peace again every weekend. I just started to build off of that. Every weekend I would go out into the Everglades with a buddy of mine or by myself and kind of share the passion and share, this is something that we wouldn't have seen if we weren't out here. And then from then on, it kind of just, it was a stepping stone to something greater where I was like, I want to found an organization, because I feel like National Geographic, Discovery Channel, and a lot of these big names, these household names, I feel like the magic with these organizations has kind of been lost on us. And I say that because most of their work, unfortunately, feels like it gets too preachy. It feels like they guilt trip people into certain agendas and narratives. And as a result, that pushes away maybe more than half your audience. And I feel like, growing up, we didn't have that. We had more of the appreciation for the wonder, the appreciation for creation, the appreciation for the blade of grass right next to us that has a dragonfly that is eating the mosquitoes and saving our skin. So, those little things where to the granular level and then to the macro, we don't really have stories that tell us the things that matter, it feels like. And from that point on, then I started doing some research. The crocodile thing came up that same year where I photographed a rather large 17-footer in the Flamingo Marina. Yeah.
Wow.
And I would learn about him, and he had a specific name. His name was Fred. And I was just I went down this rabbit hole because I was at the time, I always knew that we had crocodiles, but I had never seen one until that day. And I thought to myself, wow, do we have giant crocodiles like this in the Everglades? And then, yeah, there's Croczilla, there's Freddy, there's Fred. Freddy's from Black Marina, the other side of the coast there. And that I was like, wow, this is a story that nobody talks about. And you talk to other Floridians and they'll be like, we don't have crocodiles, we have alligators. I'm like, actually, we're the only place on earth that has both alligators and crocodiles. And I have the photos.
And caimans. So, don't we have caimans too in some places?
Now they're popping up. Yeah, they are invasive. They have been popping up. I haven't seen them yet, but there are records of them popping up in the Everglades now.
Okay.
But that kind of like kickstarted the whole chasing these stories, these American wilderness stories, where I started picking up rumors here and there. Another project that we have in the works too with the University of Arizona is that Arizona has jaguars. And I had no idea that we had Native American, American native jaguars. Yes. And they just recently picked up a couple on their game trail cameras out west. And I'm like, that's a great story. That's tracking a big cat that belonged to America. And we're already, I'm sure you're well aware that our Florida panther is knocking on extinction's door right now.
Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid growing up, there was a scrub area just on the other side of 95. And there was regular cats in there that they'd find, and that Florida puma was just always around. And it's just, I think, man, it's almost as if, it's like, I think, like for me, when I hear a story, because I've always been infatuated with great storytelling as well, too. From early on, my dad was a very adamant about discovery and curiosity, but through great storytelling. And I try to forget when it was, but this essence of allowing the story of something outside of the norm to catch you and pull you in, right? So whatever it might be, whether it's the fall from grace story or the hero or the saving the damsel or defeating the dragon, whatever archetypical story, that we traditionally are exposed to, it's those ones in nature that give the closest proximity to it. Right. And you're like, whoa, like that's real. That can happen in real time. It's not mythological. that's in your backyard. It's like, oh my God, I can go access the magnificence of what creation, the stories, the millions, the billions of different stories that creation tells us on this planet alone every single day. And for us, when it used to come on Sunday nights before Disney used to have a show, and it was this guy, and he had this great voice, and it'd be filmed over in Africa, or it'd be down in the islands, or he'd go diving with Jacques Cousteau, or whatever it was. And I remember it was like they were on another planet. And my dad was the one who always was like, you can access that if you are adventurous and you're courageous, and you recognize, what is it? It's as soon as we can reshift the relative interpretation of our own size in creation to where we're not always monumentally bigger or more important than these other things, right? The jaguar out in Arizona, or Croczilla in the Everglades. Like, once we realize, oh man, those things are every bit as important and is every bit as big as we are, then you have people just get sucked into it. Tell me how you got your part. Too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's the purpose too, is that, I say that we're trying to inspire the next generation, but like you said, it's accessible. It's in our backyard. Me, every weekend, I'm working, I have a normie job too. I work 9 to 5, and then every day off, any time off I have, I'm out there and tracking Croczilla, and I keep missing him. And it's become this sort of obsession of mine. And the fact that I'm doing this, anyone could really do this. That's why we tell these stories, that we want to tell you guys, like, hey, you don't need to be a biologist. You don't need to be an expert in this field. You can go out and enjoy creation too. You don't need anyone's permission.
I think that's true in all art, right? I mean, one of my favorite stories is Ray LaMontagne, right? A beautiful, beautiful balladero, who with his guitar and sings these beautiful songs. He was a carpenter until he was like 42 years old, or you look at some, great painters or whatever, that all of a sudden they're just like, they're overwhelmed by their passion, and it forces their action to get out there and share what they see with the rest of, initially it's through your friends and family. And then, it starts to, now with the internet, I mean, everybody can be a creator. Thank God. Yeah. I mean, as much as there are aspects of social media, in particular, some of the hater comments I got, this past week, but the overwhelming majority of people that tap into the stories that I was trying to tell about resilience, it was positive. And when I look and I see the comments on your pieces, in particular, the King of the Everglades, man, like I'm so moved by, hey, there's something happening, right? People are seeking out these stories because I think there's so many more opportunities to do them. Like, when you first started, are you worried about competing with anybody else in the space? Are you worried about getting funding or getting it bought, having your project bought by Netflix or whomever? Is that an issue for you?
It's we did start a crowdfunding campaign several months ago, back in April, and it concluded I believe in May. And I had a bare bones budget of like, just give me one more camera, couple pieces of equipment, and let's see what we can do here. We were able to pull together a little over $10,000, which was that exceeded my expectations.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that exceeded our expectations, and I was truly grateful and blessed. We had a massive support from our friends, family, and then the X following too, the goobers, as you will, I call them. They're a great group of guys there that just like these are individuals who really do care about storytelling. They care about wholesomeness. They care about what matters, American history, integrity, the Constitution, things that matter, and what makes America great, right? And to see that sort of support and validation from others, it gave us all the momentum you could have asked for. And so to go back to your initial question, everyone in this space, the dream is like, oh, I'm going to get the Netflix deal, right? My stuff's going to get on Netflix and I'm going to get paid $40 quadrillion. It's like, we had a couple of windows into the industry, and it was actually pretty interesting that we got pulled in when we started getting a little bit of traction. I sent out emails to producers that were on IMDb or producers that were on documentaries I enjoyed, especially recently on Netflix or BBC. And
yep.
I just drafted emails. I cannot tell you how many emails I sent out. It's blue to the face. And sent out emails. And then finally I got maybe 2 people responded back, and they were producers. And I'm not going to disclose his name, but this individual was one of the producers on the documentaries I loved. And he absolutely loves our work, what we were pitching, our trailer, and the initial photography we've done. And we actually got on a sort of webcam discussion with him. And he was actually, he had worked for BBC, National Geographic, and he was in works with another National Geographic project. And he said, do you boys want me to tell National Geographic about your project? And my buddy and I look at each other like, yeah.
Is that a trick question?
Yeah, that'd be nice. So unfortunately, they did not go ahead and select us. The industry right now is a little bit in shambles with how everything is, the economic landscape. The whole production industry is facing close to 70% unemployment rate. And they're very selective with where they want to throw their money, because at the end of the day, you can only waste so many. You can only waste so much money on so many projects. And with Disney, Disney owns National Geographic. They wanted to be very selective with what project they want to put money towards. So they said that there isn't really a demand for expedition content, is what was told to us. So to which I said, I don't know, because I look over on X and I talk to a lot of people, and like, expedition content is something that's missing today, I feel.
Oh, absolutely. Look at how well, what's his name? His new show on Netflix that came out, just where he's the parks cop.
Eric Bana. Yeah.
And it's like, and you're like, wait a minute, cops in a national park, but like there's an edginess because the shooting, the photography of it is immaculate. And so like it sucked me in. And or you look at Chris Hemsworth, or I mean, obviously there's all these people out there that have really done it well. I think it's a lot like chasing down the pyramids and where they, some of that stuff. So I think, but I believe that, you guys and what you saw gave me that sensation that I had grown up with, watching the National Geographic stuff, watching the Disney shows, watching the Planet Earth stuff. Like I had that sensation, but what's even cooler is that you gave it something specific, right? There was the mission of finding Croczilla, and I just thought it was incredible. That's why I was just like, I gotta talk to this guy and how he came up with this.
So
man. It's just
a little bit of a spoiler alert.
Shot.
A little bit of a spoiler alert. We recently discovered that there is another super croc that is potentially larger than Croczilla, and he has only been photographed by 2 photographers so far. And he is over 18 feet long, and he rules a pond. Yeah, he's a monster. The photographer so this crocodile is nicknamed King, which is, it's so funny that we discovered this crocodile after I had named the documentary King of the Everglades. So I was just like,
that's cool.
This is like, the Lord gave us a nice plot twist.
That's right.
So
that's right.
I bumped into the only photographer that was able to get 2 photos of him. And over the span of the last 6 years, he photographed him twice. And once was once was a couple of years ago, and I believe the other instance was 2018. And both times at 3 a.m, this crocodile is out there. And we're like, we got to get out there somehow, some way. And oddly enough, I discovered the pond that he lives in is closed off to the public currently because it's gotten a mass migration of spoonbills and storks now setting up a nursery in the pond. And they wanted to protect the nursery from, from tourists and anyone else out there from human intervention. So we're like, this is a perfect, we're fighting to get permits. We're talking to, I'm exhausting every contact I can find to try to get on this pond. And it's just proving very, very difficult. A lot of red tape involved, but it was a revelation because like, no wonder this crocodile is as giant as he is because he's got a all you can eat buffet set up now with the nursery of spoonbills and storks there.
Oh my God. So it makes total sense, man. Total sense. Wow. What's up, team? I've been writing for over 40 years. Finally, I've decided to bring to life a character that has been on my heart since my experiences of carrying a gun for a living. If you recently watched my episode with my best friend on his show, The Sean Ryan Show, you heard some of my real-world experiences that shaped this character and the story of the poet warrior. Can a poet's soul survive the crucible of war? The poet warrior follows Adam Ferguson, a reclusive teenage artist haunted by his father's early death, as he transforms into a battle-scarred Navy SEAL. Through the chaos of combat in the shadow of 9/11, Adam grapples with the raw truth of mortality. His journey is a searing odyssey of heartbreak, failure, and the relentless search for identity amidst the ruins of lost loved ones. Set against the turbulent dawn of the global war on terror, this is a story of a young man torn between his poetic heart and the hardened warrior he's become. If this sounds like a story that might pull you in, please visit my website at davidrutherford.com or click the link in the description below. And if you pre-order now, your signed copy will be delivered before the holidays. Thank you very much, and Godspeed. Well, I want to read something to everybody who's listening. And if you've ever, been on a nature walk or actually put on a rock and gone camping or gotten in a canoe or a raft or something and gotten out there and immersed yourself into creation, this will have an impact on you. And this is what you wrote about, and this is in your About Us on explorus.org. You go, Explorus is a nonprofit organization dedicated to reconnecting people with the wild spaces around them. We believe that exploration begins in your own backyard and extends to the vast, untamed wilderness of North America. Our mission is to inspire curiosity, foster respect for natural environments, and cultivate a new generation of explorers. Through immersive storytelling, educational programs, and community initiatives, we showcase the breathtaking beauty and vital importance of our continent's wild places. Man, that's about as beautifully written as anything I've ever read. And what I'd love for you to do is give people kind of what they can expect in the future from your content. Like when you show people, what are they saying as you show them these reels? What are they saying to you? And then, how are you shaping the narrative to really translate those beautiful words into that sensation that people are going to feel when they watch your stuff?
I think the main thing is, that reconnection, reconnecting with untamed wilderness and showcasing what we want to start off with is American wilderness. I feel like there's more than enough stories to go around and showcase. We put together a tentative slate of ideas. One of them is the American Jaguar. I was going to premiere the title of it next week, but it is Beast of the Borderlands. And that is tracking the big cats of the North American Jaguar and their place in Arizona and showcasing their resiliency, the history. And we're not trying to beat people over the head with an agenda or a sort of guilt-tripped message, right? This is about like, hey, I had no idea we had jaguars. I want to see that. Like, so,
yes,
and the idea is that we're going to go on this mission, we're going to show you, and we're going to inspire you to do the same, because you can do it too. So gatekeeping is something I keep running into a lot in the production realm, in conservation. It's just, it is a bit of a problem. I mean, gatekeeping is everywhere in all walks of life and
explain
hobbies.
Gatekeeping, if you could.
It's almost this self-absorption idea of this realm, this piece of information belongs to me and only me, and I don't want to share it with anyone else.
Yeah. There's
and
a lot
they
of
monopolize it, and they monopolize it, and they pick and choose who gets access to it. And to me, isn't that what made science great? Is that we can all challenge the science, we can all run our own experiments, like we did growing up in middle school, right? Going to the science fair, and that's, you know, we run into a bit of that, and we kind of have to, like, we're walking a little bit on eggshells because, unfortunately, don't want to get political about it, but it is left dominating. Left-leaning politics dominates that landscape for the most part, and we kind of want to break away with. We kind of want to recalibrate to the center if we can on a lot of these issues and show people that nature's for everyone. It's not just for activists. It's not just for intellectuals who think that they're bigger than life.
For sure. One of my closest friends has been a hunter his whole life. He manages a 10,000 acre hunting lease up at just north on the edge of Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee. And, you know, and he is probably the most significant conservationist I've ever met in my life. His family's very politically connected up in DC and even here in Florida. You know, his sister was very high up in the elections. She was a Senate approved elections person, you know, for the Republican Party. His brother is a conservationist lobby for FP&L lobbyists. And, you know, he is a firm believer in conservationism, and, you know, he's hunted all over the place, and he's actually, you know, like you said, he's the one who's like, I don't give a damn what your politics are, but you know, if you love the outdoors, it's on you to take to take up the mantle of supporting it, protecting it, and working together, regardless of what your core political beliefs are. If you love the outdoors, you love the outdoors. I have seen that taking place now more than I've ever seen it as a result of what we just saw with Braxton and the establishment of the Sagebrush Institute. Can you explain your relationship with them and what's your position with them and how you came about being volunteered for that?
So it all started with a discussion over wolves. I'm sure, I don't know if you know the backstory with Braxton being the wolf appreciator, because he got so much flack for calling out the Colorado policy of reintroducing gray wolves, which that's a separate topic altogether. But
right.
We befriended each other over that issue, I think over a year ago now, and we both have an appreciation for the great outdoors. And he kind of took point on the whole you know, the whole public land sale bill that was going to be pushed through, and we just all fell in line and, you know, cooked together as many memes as we could and bully politicians into telling them, like, no, this is not right. This is not what we voted for. In terms of Sagebrush Institute, you know, they had put together a great board of individuals, and they're putting together, you know, it sounds like I'm quoting the Avengers. I'm putting together a team, and they got all these sort of, you know, big name influencers on X and different platforms that are gonna do some wonderful work for Sagebrush. And I remember I was coming back from the Everglades, and I got a DM notification from Braxton, and he's just like, "Hey, you're gonna be the Florida, like, chairman or president for the Florida chapter. I'm volunteering you." And he shows me the meme of, like, pointing a gun at me, like. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I'm in.
If you say so. Like,
yeah.
So
exactly.
he went ahead and said, like, "Hey, I think you do great work as a as leader of the chapter. He went ahead and made the announcement a couple weeks ago, and I've had a bunch of people flood the DMs and reach out to me, which has been amazing. And I have all this responsibility now to try to pick a spot somewhere where everyone could drive to in South Florida, maybe, where we can all meet up and discuss some potential, hot topics that we want to tackle for Sagebrush.
Hot Springs is a beautiful place. You've got, all kinds of amazing places around Lake Okeechobee that are incredible. Up in the Panhandle, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spots. What a lot of people just think that, Florida's strip malls and highway, right? But they have no idea how diverse our ecosystem is, right? And I love that you have joined that organization. As you can already tell, I'm a massive supporter of Braxton's. I'm a massive supporter of Sagebrush. And I just think you're going to make a tremendous, tremendous addition to that. So congratulations on getting on that.
Thank you. It was an honor. It's a privilege. It's something that I will take very seriously. And the big thing is too, I don't want to be the focal point. I want to empower Floridians. I want everyone to show up, voice your opinion. No one's going to get silenced. Let's all discuss, at the dinner table almost. Like, it's an open discussion. It's not a bad thing to share ideas, right? We don't want just one or two people to lead point and tell everyone how to think. So.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the release of this, what the next 6 months, year looks like for you. What are the next big steps and hurdles, and just explain what the roadmap looks for you and your organization over the foreseeable future.
So we are filming. We're in the midst of filming King of the Everglades. It is going to be a seasonal documentary series. We have 7 chapters mapped out. We're trying to hit 20 minutes per chapter because worst case scenario, we're looking at putting this thing out on YouTube and X, maybe X original. It remains to be seen. So that's what's the next year and a half looks like in terms of the King of the Everglades production. We are working with FPL. They're crocodile expert. I just sent over a proposal over to them, so I'm waiting for feedback from them so we can get access to their cooling canals where they have a crocodile sanctuary there. And that's part of the overarching story of King of the Everglades, is to showcase the conservation, right? I did get invited by a biologist out west for gray wolf project out in Lassen National Park, Lassen Volcanic National Park out west in Northern California, where this biologist and his team have been tracking the reintroduction of the once extinct gray wolf in Northern California, and they live in the shadow of a volcano. So it sounded very interesting, and he invited me. So I'll be heading out there next year just to work on that story as well while I'm working on King of the Everglades. And then we're just gearing up, hopefully in the next year or two, once we pick up maybe a little bit more financial support, more of a following too, we're going to be working on some other projects we have lined up, like the Arizona Jaguar, Beast of the Borderlands. So that's what we have on our plate right now. Just a newsletter, working with Sagebrush on a couple of things as well, and taking up the mantle of Florida man. It feels like. And then we'll see. We'll see where we go. We're going to try to shoot to get the first chapter of King of the Everglades out by fall next year.
Okay, that sounds beautiful. All right, so how can people support you? How can people support the effort? How can they not only support what you're doing at explorers.org, but also Sagebrush?
Support my caffeine addiction. Buy me a coffee. I don't want to really ask for anything. But all
right, I'm going to do it. Listen, everybody, it's very difficult to do this work. It's very difficult to meet young people that are inspired to take on these monumental hurdles. The industry itself, like he said, is very insulated in what they're choosing to get behind financially. And so I'm here to tell you this young man is the real deal. His organization's the real deal. And more importantly, his art is the real deal. That's what got me to him. I watched his trailer he made. It moved me. And so that's what made me do it. So go to their website. That's explorus.org. And, it's $50. It's $100. We're not asking for $20,000 or $50,000. That's ridiculous. What these young men, what they need is to tell beautiful stories for you and your children, is they need just a little bit of help here and there. Don't go to Starbucks for a month and give them $100, So I'll ask, don't worry. It's my pleasure.
I appreciate that. Truly, every dollar goes a long way, and I'm incredibly grateful and blessed to have the support that we have and for many years to come. So I'm excited to get these stories out to you guys, and who knows, maybe I'll be in one of my followers' backyards next year.
Oh man, I love that. All right. So where can people follow you? Where are you at?
I have an Instagram, Action Xander, just the same as my X handle or username, Action Xander, and then Explorist Society is our username as well on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, both Explorist Society and myself, Action Xander.
Well, Alexander, I'm just truly honored that you shared your passion, your love of creation and what's available. I'm also very honored that you would talk a little bit about losing your friend. The way I look at that, I've lost a lot of friends over the last 10 years to suicide, and each one of them, they inspire me to do what I do every day, to try and bring some goodness to the world, to try and help people when they're down. And so, at the end of the day, I'm sure he's smiling down on you, moved by what you are. And then also he's that little inspiration to keep walking through that thunderstorm of mosquitoes that's coming down on you while you're out there. And
it's
pretty soon to have
having
Jaguars, having Jaguars hunt you down when you go out to Arizona. So thank you so much. God bless you. And we wish you all the luck. And when you're ready to release anything, just hit us up. We'll have you back on and we'll play a little bit of the clip, and we'll just keep going, helping you there.
I appreciate that a lot, David. And shout out to Jordy. You guys are doing wonderful work. Thank you so much. And God bless you both.
Thank you.